I'm here.
Are you talking to me, Cindy?
Yeah, did you hear it? Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay, because I couldn't hear anything with you guys, so I wasn't sure.
Can you now? Can you hear us now?
Barely.
It's because if we don't speak into the microphones, you can't hear us.
Okay.
We haven't had the mics on. But we are going to be calling this meeting to order in about 50 seconds or sooner. So it's got all these different clocks.
Yeah.
Let's all turn off our cell phones while we think of it.
Oh, mine's in my office.
Right. Wrong cell phone from my house anyway.
Oh, there you go.
This one's not even on.
It's not going to ring. Oh, it's 6 o'clock. We're going to call this meeting to order. We'd like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin Nation. Please stand for the national anthem. Right. First, we have a motion moved by Susan Irwin, seconded by Dan Meeks, that the agenda for the regular meeting of council to be held March the 10th, 2026 be approved as amended to include a verbal report from CAO Clerk Kathy McMunn under item 18, new or other business. All those in favor? Carried. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest by any member of council with anything on the agenda tonight? Okay, we will note that. Moved by Philip Smith, seconded by Nikki Gowdy, that the minutes from the regular meeting of council held on February the 24th, 2026 be approved as presented. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Mayor's remarks. We got a few things here. It's time to think about running for council in the 2025 municipal elections.
2026.
26, sorry. 26, flying by. The townships of Central Frontenac, South Frontenac, and North Frontenac are hosting an information session for residents interested in learning more about becoming a municipal council member. It's going to be April the 20th, 2026, 7 to 9, Soldiers Memorial Hall, Oso. The session will provide an overview of the roles and responsibility of municipal council members and help potential candidates better understand what's involved in serving their community. All residents who are considering running for municipal council are encouraged to attend. And we've had those in the past, and they're very good. Mm-hmm. And they're very relaxed in that you can ask questions. Volunteer appreciation event will be held April the 18th, 2026 at Circle Square Ranch, starting at 5 p.m. Invitations are being distributed by RSVPs due to the committee chairs by March 27th. So got to get back. And we now have an announcement from Duncan McGregor, who is giving his resignation. Duncan.
First off, April 4th is going to be the second annual helicopter Easter egg drop at the ballpark again. We're expecting even more people than last year. And then secondly, as the mayor mentioned, as many of you know, my family and I have been working towards building a new home in Bradshaw. While we've been slowly transitioning and Charlotte Lake will always be the place we consider home, our new house will sit just outside the Central Frontenac border. Because of that, it's only fair that I step down from my position in council. First off, I want to thank members of council for the opportunity to serve. It's been an incredible experience, not just to contribute to the community, but to really learn the inner workings of municipal government. Over the past couple of years, I've realized that council often has an impossible job. There's never enough money to do everything, and the expectations from the community are constantly growing. It's a difficult path to walk, especially when everyone here is trying their absolute best to do what they think is right for this township. Thank you for everything you do. Very few people truly appreciate the amount of work you put in behind the scenes. Secondly, I want to thank our staff. Your service to this municipality is vital. I know I haven't always been the easiest person to deal with, and I truly appreciate your professionalism and the way you've handled the challenges I've thrown your way. I want to lastly thank my family. I could have never imagined the amount of time commitment required to be on council, and they've supported me every single step of the way. Even though my time on council is coming to an end, I want to offer my continued help. I'm happy to stick around with any committees or projects I'm currently working on. I won't have a vote anymore, but I'm more than willing to put in the time to make 2026 a smooth transition for everyone.
Thank you very much, Duncan. We're going to miss you. You have been one of the more challenging counselors that I've had over the past 39 or 40 years or whatever years I've been here. But your heart is in the right place and your heart is with the community, and we very much appreciate that. And we're so glad that you work in this community, because we'll be calling on you for things that we know you've done for us as a member of council, but really just as a member of the community. And we appreciate all that you've done. Thank you. Okay. Now we have Ron Couchman, is it?
Yes. Mhm.
Oh, sorry. Lynn, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I just wanted to say
I
something before we go into the delegation.
Did write it down.
I just wanted to make sure everybody's well aware that the Economic Development Committee for Central Frontenac is teaming up this weekend with the North Frontenac Economic Task Force. And we're going to the Quinte Sportsman Boat and RV Show. It will be at the Quinte Sports and Wellness Center in Belleville. And it's all day Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Anybody interested, come by and visit us.
Excellent. That is so important, and it really does put us on the map. So thank you for the work that you're doing. That's volunteerism at its best. Go ahead.
And can I add that Duncan McGregor is volunteering his time for part of the weekend, this weekend at the Sportsman Show too. So even though he's stepping away, he's still very much involved.
Okay, excellent. All right, now we're going to move on to delegations. Ron, come on to the table. Ron's going to talk about Alto Rail, and he has been talking about it all weekend. Have a seat.
All right, thank you for having me. I did make some copies of what I'm about to say, which in and of itself is very rare. I'm kind of I speak my mind as it comes to me, but I know members of council might want to make notes or ask some questions. There are some larger print copies at the back. It's not formatted beautifully. It was done in 20 minutes, so I can get to my maple syrup buckets. But I'll pass those around.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm honored to be given this.
Hold that microphone right down. Okay.
Is this
There.
good?
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm honored to be given this time to talk about an issue that's deeply important to me and all of the members of this community. In recent weeks, it turns out all of us are finding out information we had no idea existed at the time about the current Alto train plans. Several weeks ago, it was normal, despite frustrating for most of us, to have no idea what was going on about the things that could potentially happen to our communities. A lot of members in our communities mistakenly assumed that townships and cities must obviously know a lot more than they're telling us, and obviously we've learned since then that that's not at all the case. There's a lot we continue not to know. However, there are a few facts we do know for sure, and I think it's important that at least we have a conversation about it somewhat regularly, whether it's this forum or town halls or some other means. Even if we do not know the finalized route, we do know for sure that it's going to be at minimum a huge 60-meter fenced-in rail line with no rural stops in or outside the feature of the 7 designated stops, despite the well-meaning intentions and desires of most of us. And I say this as someone who's engaged with Alto at almost every single information session they've had. I've contacted Alto lawyers directly, and I've had communications with as many possible politicians as I possibly could, and I have a personal relationship with a good many of them. Most impacted areas will be wider than that. They need to build small cities to house workers. They need space to bring huge construction vehicles through, and all of that space will be outside of the 60 meters that it'll be finding. All our roads will be dead-ending, with the very rare exception for main roads. Imagine Highway 7, 38, and some major roads may get an overpass. The Alto information sessions and their lawyers admit the changes in road clearing, fire and rescue, school district planning, reduced tax revenue will be downloaded onto municipalities. We have no idea what those are. This is well outside the scope of my expertise, but we can assume any additional costs are difficult to manage, especially with tax revenues impacted. Number 2, they will need to divert and congregate waterways to limit how many times it passes through the railway. C15, if passed as is, will remove their need for proper environmental impact assessments entirely. Number 3, they will reduce and limit taxpayer avenues for challenging the decisions of offers. This is also included in Bill C15. They will issue a maximum of 30 days notice to respond, or were considered to automatically agree to their offer for the purchase. The only challenge can be made through costly litigation. Unlike usual, there's a tribunal process that you can challenge without expensive legal means, and unfortunately those have been removed or are currently in the process of being removed. I have found a common theme among citizens that they fail to see how such a large project can be impacted, delayed, or stopped by people, or even townships. And I understand why this can be the case. It can be daunting. I would like to offer a counter-argument for anyone that feels that way. Just 1 week ago, I attended a Madoc information session. I'm not sure if anyone here attended that. The entire information session got quite heated, and I actually got the attention of everybody in the room, and I informed them that I understood their frustrations by getting really mad and yelling at an Alto employee trying to give you what very little information they're allowed to is hardly an efficient use of our energy. So I encouraged them to take as much of that information as they could, be polite as possible to the people offering that information, and focus our energy instead towards our town hall, towards elected officials who are actually making physical and political decisions. And again, the comments were the same. How could we make a difference? It's already in the Senate. They don't listen to us. A few days later, a community held a town hall here, very well attended, I must say. And many there said that they thought it was useless. And I explained, if you take one moment and send an email that isn't read, instead of the hours and hours we spend wasting doing things significantly less important, what do we possibly lose by doing that? I have transcripts from yesterday's Senate meeting, and I have continuous updates on the process through friends and people that are engaged in the Senate process that proves that our voices and our emails to our senators do make a huge difference. In the transcripts I sent to you, I have a full transcript of the Senate hearing. I'm not going to bother reading it all. But the most important section for me is in just 3 days of community members contacting senators, which almost never happens, by the way. They get 5-6 emails from community members perhaps a year. The comment was raised by, let me make sure I get the senator correctly, Senator Cardozo. I do want to raise with you some concerns that have been put forward. You all have heard about this. Many of us in the Senate have heard those voices as well, certainly in terms of communications to us and the local media. Concerns include a couple of things. One is that there's not enough information that Alto shared so far, and certainly when you're dealing with expropriation on this large scale, there will be some inconvenience felt, whether it's to individual farms or entire communities. My concern is that we could end up in a debate that's rural folks versus urban folks. Urban dwellers benefit most from high-speed rail. There's a continued conversation, and there's no need to talk about it all. You can read it at your leisure. But the importance there really is we were able to highlight in 2 or 3 short days what a few emails to a senator could do. And it's not because prior to that they didn't care about the issue, But simply, as you guys know, they get a legislation of 600 pages, and there's probably 3 lines that really greatly impact us. And so if we don't draw their attention to those few lines, nobody's going to. They have an unlimited number, right? So if someone like myself as a citizen, if members of Township, if members of municipality and cities bring to their attention those few clauses that greatly impact us, it's the only way that those voices get on their radar. And although the Bill C-15 is not going to be stopped by this process, but if they are concerned enough just to put it back to the House for debate, that's a huge win. Letting these things go unchecked means there's no media attention, no change, no negotiation. So I urge us very much to recognize that a small email, a letter of intent, can actually go a significantly long way because so few people bother to do it. During our town hall, we had both our acting MP and several others that ran against him in the united concern against Alto. And there's always a common theme. People encourage someone to allow the MP to speak, answer all the questions for that MP so that that MP can go along their way. We had one request for this town hall. If you came to this town hall, you're coming as any other. You say your piece, and you wait till the very end and answer all the questions. And at no time can any of your comments be branded or partisan. And that's a value I take from municipal politics. It allows you to cut through the dirt and get to the task and issue at hand. As far as I'm concerned, if anyone is against Alto Train ruining our environment, they are my ally, regardless of their political beliefs. And I think that's a really critical point to get through to every single landowner here. And I think this is a role that a mandatorily bipartisan institution like a municipality can play in that. The most important thing for us to do is continue to update ourselves and our community members as information comes through. I don't believe for a second that in the next 30 years there's going to be a railroad completed between Toronto and Ottawa and Montreal, but I do know some things to be true. Ministry of Transport McKinnon assured us that the route will be chosen for certain by the end of 2026. And when asked when expropriations will begin, he said immediately. Within 18 months, we can have properties changing hands. Whether train gets built on those properties afterwards or not, for me as a landowner, it's too late. And I say that as someone who has had land off of the property I have now owned. The front of the property was taken for Highway 7, and most of the community agreed that having a proper highway here is of great value to the communities. And so a lot of people willingly participated in that project. The rear of the same property was removed by CN Rail to make a railway line that never happened. And that property has never been returned. It is now a trail for ATVs, which I use occasionally, and that's great. It would be nicer to have maple syrup sap running through those lanes, but nonetheless, not all projects come to fruition. And it doesn't have to cause us fear only if the train is built. Once the land is expropriated, the damage to communities and to the environment has been done. Madam Mayor, with desperation, with every ounce of plea that exists in my body, I consider, at minimum, the following, if you could consider them separately. Draft a letter of concern about the high-speed rail instead of high-frequency rail, expressing for a disapproval for any project that cuts communities in half, dead-ends roads, with no future potential of benefiting our communities through stops. This letter should be sent in paper and email to every sitting MP, every sitting mayor, as well as every sitting MPP, especially the MPP of municipalities. Number 2, it would be brought to my attention that the deadline for election ballot questions has passed. And in speaking with provincial MPPs, Rob Fleck, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, has the authority to add non-binding questions to the ballot. I asked Madam Mayor, we respectfully request a letter to be sent to his office, asking a question be put to the ballot as to whether or not, to poll members of municipalities, whether or not they support the Alto Train project with the 7 stops currently designed. This is the fastest way, if nothing else, to ensure everybody within the municipalities of Ontario can get information that this project even exists and to start asking questions. And number 3, I would love to either have the township commit to holding town halls or at least agree to attend or support town halls regularly so that the community can just update themselves and each other with information as it arrives. It allows people to be less scared and less angry and more well-informed. It also allows us to make better decisions for our economies, for our families, for our future, and for the environment. At the very least, having a place that we can share in our fear and our anger gives us a place where we feel there's community, we feel we're supported, and there's nothing more I can ask of this council, Your Honors. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll certainly take all of that under consideration. We certainly did tell Alto when they were at this table how displeased we were with their project. Again, open houses would be good if Alto were the people there giving information, and that may happen down the road. Although my understanding is in a couple of months, they're going to make some firm decisions about where they're going, but we will certainly keep that, all that information, and do what we can, because it's awful to think about it coming through our households, our fields, our waterways, and our roads for sure. Okay. Any questions or comments for Ron? Thank you for doing the open house on Saturday.
Thank you.
It was excellent. How many attended roughly?
Over 120, I believe.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
And from my understanding, people were waiting outside for a while, and some ended up coming in, some didn't. But almost everybody that came at the beginning stayed entirely till the end.
Good. I heard somebody say that couldn't find any parking. There were so many cars.
Yeah, we were very thankful that our community even has the space large enough to
Yes.
facilitate that many people.
Excellent. All right. We have a motion moved by Bill Everett, seconded by Lynn Clegus, that council receive the presentation from Ron Kuchman, resident of Central Frontenac, regarding Alto Rail for information. All those in favor? Carried. All right. No public meeting. Consent agenda. Moved by Cindy Kelsey, seconded by Susan Irwin. That council accept items A through E for information as they are considered routine.
Yeah, don't take that. Just ignore this.
Ignore that. Okay. All right. Any questions or comments on the A2 through E? All those in favor? Carried. Deferred items, there aren't any. Staff reports. And our first report is Development Services. Hello, Andy. Okay, I have a motion moved by Dan Meek, seconded by Philip Smith, that council receive the construction details building activity report dated, is it dated February 2026? For information. Questions or comments for Andy? So Andy? Permits are slow in comparison?
I would say they're average. Yeah, people are gearing up for when half loads come off.
Well, with all the snow too, it's not encouraging to think about building.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions from council? All those in favor? Carried. All right, moved by Nikki Gowdy, seconded by Bill Everett, that council received the capital projects report as presented by the chief building official for information. Questions, comments? Susan?
Through Madam Mayor, Andy, in terms of Oso Hall, it's in the planning stage. I'm just wondering if you have applied for the ROD program grant. Is the second intake closed February 26th, and it was my understanding that you were looking at doing that. But if not, there's a third round coming up for October 1st. So
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Irwin. It's still up in the air whether we have use of the back room there to expand the kitchen. So until we get that straightened out, I don't think we can do enough work to justify applying for the grant, but maybe we'll know by fall.
And just to add to that, the reason is that the court has renewed their lease of the hall. And we have a letter off to them.
We're waiting for them to get back to us. And Michael and I, because he was talking, but one person and then another was to call, but we haven't got the answer yet from them. So we're still at it.
Okay, so as soon as we need to send them back a note and tell them we need an answer because
Yeah.
does the lease doesn't say exactly what it is they rent.
No, it's done by square footage. So I'm not sure if they're just meaning the main floor, but at the back. So we'd have to figure out what that was, and I'll work with Andy on that to figure out how much is square footage, and then we can certainly get a hold of them.
Well, I think over the years, we added some spaces in the back to make it easier for the court, but I'm not so sure it was ever added to a lease. So it may be our space to do what we want with it, but where do we store the furniture for the judge? And what does the judge want in the back when he's there, he or she is there? Susan?
Well, that clarifies that, but I mean, the hall is heavily used and that kitchen area, are there still things that could be done, even if it can't be expanded? I remember the presentation from the Lions Club, and they make regular use of Oso Hall. I mean, having a kitchen where the stove doesn't work and the panel is exposed is a problem. And so I'm thinking, even if we can't expand the kitchen, maybe we can improve what's there.
We are looking into that, and we hope to start as soon as the Little Theater's done their spring production.
Which is April, I believe. Nikki?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Andy, the floor, yes, the kitchen is atrocious, but the floor is not in great shape either. Are you open if other grants come up? Are you open to applying for other grants that would include like a complete refresh, floors, kitchen, and that? So if we hear of any grants and send them your way, you're open to applying for them?
Yep, we can look into that. Yep.
Okay, Lynn?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I see the exterior work that you have scheduled for the Kennebec Hall. Do you have a time frame of when it just says not started, but is it a spring project, a summer project? When do you expect to do this work?
I would say probably summer, fall.
Okay, anything else? All right, all those in favor of the motion? All right, that is it for Andy.
thank you.
Public Works. Change hot seats. All right, we have a motion moved by Lynn Klages, seconded by Cindy Kelsey, that council receive the Public Works Activity Report dated February 2026 as prepared by the Public Works Technical Assistant for information. Questions, comments? Philip and then Nikki.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to ask, it's not in the report, and I know we're not going to get project reports, but just wondering, has the engineers started the tender process for the salt dome? I'm just hoping that we can get it going so we can actually put sand in it for the coming winter.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I just signed to do a geotechnical report because they want to know what's underneath the sand dome before they put it out for the RFP. So I just signed it today, and they said probably a couple weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, that should be done, and then it should be ready to put out for RFP.
Good. Nikki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In your report, you talk about doing brushing when the time allows. The brusher's been sitting in Piccadilly for a couple of weeks. Is there an issue with the brusher, or we just haven't had time allowed in the last couple of weeks to do anything?
Through you, Madam Mayor. I just found out today that we have a couple operators that run it regularly, and one guy was patrolling and one guy was sick. So it should be up and going here late this week or first of next week. It'll be going steady again when it can.
Susan.
Through Madam Mayor, so as a counselor who spent her career behind a desk and has no idea what's involved in road maintenance, I just want to thank you for the information in this report. because telling me how you're going to transition from winter to the spring season and dealing with all that flood water, it helps not only educate me, but provide the information to provide to residents who contact me. So job well done. Thank you.
She hasn't lived on back roads long enough.
Well, I've been here since 1989 and I've discovered
You're a
a lot
local.
of just
It's a short back
about.
road.
I still live on the Ellsworth property.
There you go. That'll be forever. Yes, go ahead, Steve.
Through you, Madam Mayor. The end of the day today, I got a call from CP Rail and they want to close the road March 18th, next week, next Wednesday. They're going to do a full road closure. They want to do it because it's March break and there's no buses. And the dip after the tracks, they're going to come back and do that, and they can do it with a 1-lane closure, they said after. Because they're going to think they're going to take all day to do what they have to do there on the one spot, and then they want a full closure this time.
Can we organize traffic that quickly?
Well, we're going to have to, I guess. They're going to do it. We can't stop them. So I was actually talking to a supervisor for MCON on Highway 7, try to see if they could help us with some signage on Highway 7 to say it's closed, and we'll have our emergency signs up and get some notice out on the website and stuff. So
Philip.
So when it was closed for 3 days before, they didn't fix whatever they needed to fix then?
sorry, it's the Titchburn one. It's the one with the wood in it. That's the one they're doing.
But they didn't want to do it like, what was that, 3 years ago? They didn't want to do it then and get the work all done at once? Like,
They thought they fixed it,
and do we have to pay for this one too?
probably. They haven't told us how much, though. They always tell us after the fact. Nikki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Further to your point, Councillor Smith, I complained a lot last year and got all the way up to the vice president of what's public relations. And I reached out again today to say, because last fall they came to us and said they wanted to do closure to do this work and never followed through. The weather came early. So I emailed again today with Steve and said what's going on. So I'm kind of shocked that they got back so quick. But it has been a constant complaint. And people living in that village listening to the bang every time somebody goes over that track is terrible.
I came over the other day with my little car and I was amazed at the dip. Like it's gotten worse since November. Okay. Okay, Dan?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. In my opinion, maybe we should hold off payment until we actually see how good the tracks are this time.
We can try that. Okay, if there's no other questions or comments, all those in favor of the motion? Carried. All right, moved by Susan Irwin, seconded by Dan Meeks. The council received the report regarding the proposed purchase of a 2021 Caterpillar 150 AWD motor grader in the amount of $435,772 excluding HST. And that council authorized the Public Works Manager to proceed with the purchase of the motor grader, and further that CAO clerk and Mayor be authorized to sign all necessary contract documents. Questions, comments? Sounds like a good deal. Philip.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So yes, it does sound like a good deal. A couple of my questions were around what's the expected life of a grader? It might be better to ask what's the expected useful hours of a grader, because I know you quote the hours, but I have no reference to know whether that's low, good, like should we see 3 times as that much for life? And then the other part of the question would be around on a vehicle, you would get a safety to know that you're getting a somewhat decent vehicle. How do we verify that this used vehicle is going to hold up to some kind of standard?
Through you, Madam Mayor. The hours, we've had graders here for 10 to 14,000 hours on them. So 5,000 is okay for a 21. It's not a lot, I don't think. They did do a test on the motor and the engine oil to make sure everything was good. They did a test and it passed. We did have our mechanics go in, both our mechanics and the supervisor went in to check it out. They actually found some other stuff that was not related to the motor, but some things that were wore, and it was broken mirror. Ended up being a few things, and they agreed to fix it under that price. And I also negotiated a 2-year warranty for motor and powertrain and hydraulics too. So, and the life expectancy is usually 20 years on a grader. So this one, I'm sure we'll get 10 plus. So,
Good.
and it's half the price of one like it brand new. So,
I remember when graders were 250,000, that was a lot. Now they're 800,000. Nikki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Some of my questions were the same as Philip's. So like my research said, the lifespan of a grader is about 12,000 hours. I'm concerned about buying used. I know that we don't have money in the budget for a brand new one, but sometimes used isn't always the best. I know we agreed to it in the budget, but maybe a lease for a year and carrying over that money and buying brand new might be something to look at. And is the width of the blades, the blade that you're gonna be using the same as our other 4 graders? Was another one of my questions.
through you, Madam Mayor. We didn't look at lease options. Last time we leased a piece of equipment, it didn't seem like it worked out that great. The blade, yeah, so it's 14 foot, the same as the rest of them. Yep.
Okay. All right. All those in favor of the motion? Carried. Moved by Philip Smith, seconded by Nikki Gowdy, that council received report PW 2026-09 regarding the microsurface tender, and that council accept the recommendation of the Public Works Manager and award the microsurfacing tender to Greenwood Paving Limited in the amount of $286,581 excluding HST, and further that council authorize the mayor and CO clerk to sign the contract documents. Questions or comments? Nikki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Steve, how far are we going this year? What section of 38 will be resurfaced?
Through you, Madam Mayor, we'll be continuing from Fish Creek Road to Bradshaw, and we'll be doing the parking lanes through Titchburn, so the village will get done too.
So we're not doing as much this year because we didn't have the money to do it, right?
A little more than it was expected, yeah. The price went up a bit, so.
Yeah. Good. We got it locked in because it probably will go up much more. Susan.
Through Madam Mayor, just wondering, in terms of Greenwood Paving Limited, have you had experience with their work before, references, that sort of thing?
Through you, Madam Mayor, they've done a few surface treated roads for us, like through other contractors. They've done it, and I think they actually bid on one project we had, the whole thing, and subcontracted the construction part of it out. Yeah, Henderson Road. So they're mostly a paving surface street road. They're getting into the microservice. So they've done it before, but was the first time we're gonna have them do microservice. So
Okay. Dan.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Will that also include York Road section where the big culvert is there, or will something happen with that area, Steve? Or?
through you, Madam Mayor, no, we're not gonna do that section because it got too cold. We were fixing that spot up, and it needs another layer of asphalt on the York Road dip there. So that's why it's still kind of rough, because we should have had another layer but then it got too cold and we couldn't finish it. So I couldn't leave in that. We can go back. We left that section as a piece that could be done next year or something. It's a big enough section that could be done. So.
And there's a chance down the road that we're going to have to do something with that culvert and rip up part of the pavement. Okay, all those in favor of the motion? Carried. Moved by Bill Everett, seconded by Lynn Clegus, that council receive report PW 2026-05 regarding the ground maintenance tender for the Kennebec District, and that council accepts the recommendation of the Public Works Manager and award the Kennebec District grounds maintenance to Kennebec Tree and Lawn Service in the amount of $11,400 excluding HST, and further that council authorize the mayor and CEO clerk to sign the contract documents. Questions, comments? All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Cindy Kelsey, seconded by Susan Irwin, that council receive report PW 2026-06 ground maintenance tender for the Olden District, and that council accept the recommendation of the Public Works Manager and award Olden District grounds maintenance to Kennebec Tree and Lawn Service in the amount of $10,000 excluding HST, and that council authorize the mayor and CEO clerk to sign the contract documents. All those question, comments, Nikki, and then Dan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I get clarity that we are basing all of our decisions on price, or are we basing them on other criteria? Because in one time we do say it's about price, one time we don't. The procurement policy says that you don't have to declare on price, that it could be other things. I'm a little concerned that we had very good, numerous bidders on our tenders this time, but we only chose two proponents to cover all 4 contracts. And maybe we are having a lot of people from within the township. I don't want to discourage anybody from applying for tenders, and maybe it's time we look at sharing things around.
Okay, Dan.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. My question is how long the contract is for. Last year during Remembrance Day service, we had a snowstorm and it wasn't cleared away. I cleared it away myself, but I just wonder when the contract is up, and if this happens again, whether I'm in or not next year, whether somebody other than the contract people look after it, like Public Works, or how would that go about?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think it'd have to be Public Works would look after it because the contract ends October 31st.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else have any comments? Okay, so the motion before us. All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Dan Meek, seconded by Philip Smith, that council receive report PW 2026-07, grounds maintenance tender for the Oso district. And the council accepts the recommendation of the Public Works Manager to award Oso district ground maintenance to Hamilton's Carpentry in the amount of $28,000 excluding HST. And for the council authorize the mayor and CEO clerk to sign the contract documents. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried. And moved by Nikki Gowdy, seconded by Bill Everett, that council receive report PW 2026-08 regarding the ground maintenance tender for the Hinchinbrook district. And the council accepts the recommendation of the Public Works Manager and award the Hinchinbrook district ground maintenance to Hamilton Carpentry in the amount of $10,225 excluding HST, and that council authorize the mayor and CEO clerk to sign the contract documents. Questions, comments? Susan and then Philip.
So through Madam Mayor, and in response to Councillor Gowdy's comments about price and for other reasons, what I observed in reading all of the decisions made by or recommendations made by Public Works is that yes, price is considered, but also the quality of the work done. And in this one in particular, there were some negative experiences with one of the bidders. So I'm comfortable in accepting the recommendations of Public Works.
Okay, Philip.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to clarify that if we've had trouble with previous contractors, that we're somehow closing the loop, like we're having those discussions. It looks like we've had discussions, but I want to clarify that they're aware of the issues and might hinder their future bid opportunities.
That's something, yeah, we can do that, look into it, do that. Yeah, we can let them know.
Well, and I think as a contract goes on, if there are issues, we need to talk to them and document that so that we have it written down. And then that becomes part of what we look at when we're deciding both the dollars and the quality of work. All right, all those in favor of the motion? Carried. All right, that is it for roads. You spent a lot of money tonight, or we spent a lot of money. It's the we. All right, committee and other reports. Moved by Lynn Clegg, seconded by Cindy Kelsey. The council received the draft 2025 septic reinspection program report from Eric Colesmith, Mississippi Rideau's Septic System Office for information, and for that the report be submitted to the Septic Reinspection Committee for further review. I have to say I didn't get through it all. Did you? Nikki?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I did as well, Councillor Irwin. One of the recommendations was about a public education meeting, and we talked about it at the septic reinspection program. Was any date ever chosen for that? And then my other question could be for the committee as well, and is maybe he had suggested having it at somebody's septic that was dug up and that people could ask questions. So maybe we should possibly look at multiple locations or multiple places to have a meeting so that other people could get out and get closer to.
Not too close.
Well, not too close, but
Okay, all right. All those, oh, sorry, Philip.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So it talks about the cost again in here of $120 per system. But I really want to understand what the total cost is of the program. So we talk about what we pay the Conservation Authority, then what the user pays, but then we're also talking about adding staff. So I'm still not clear what the overall cost is going to be for the septic reinspection program for 2026.
Through Madam Mayor, I don't have the exact dollar amount, but I certainly will follow up with our treasurer and our CAO to confirm the costs. Our treasurer has already indicated how much staff time is spent on the septic reinspection program, so we should be able to cost it out. And my apologies, I had meant to put this request in sooner, but got sidetracked with something else because I noticed at our special meeting that was one of your concerns, and it's a legitimate one. So let's get it addressed.
So you can have that maybe for your committee meeting. Okay, all right. All those in favor of the motion? Carried. Communications correspondence for action, none. Bylaw agreements, none. Notice of motion, none. Giving of notice. Councillor Philip Smith hereby gives notice of a motion regarding on-call part-time firefighters, which will be brought forward for consideration at the regular meeting of council on March 24th, 2026. In accordance with the Township Procedural Bylaw 2023-53, the motion is being introduced for notice purposes only at this time. No discussion will occur at the March 10th meeting. The motion may be debated and considered at the March 24th meeting, subject to receiving a seconder on the motion.
That means someone didn't second his motion.
Okay. So we don't really know. Okay, no, we do. Okay, all right. So there's nothing we need to do with that. Just hear it. Okay, new business. Council vacancy. Moved by Cindy Kelchley, seconded by Dan Meeks. Whereas Councillor McGregor has resigned his seat on council for Oso District 3, effective March 10th, 2026. And whereas Section 29(1) of the Municipal Act 2021 SO 2001-25 addresses council vacancies. And whereas Section 262(1) of the Municipal Act states that if the office of a member of council becomes vacant under Section 259, the council shall declare the office to be vacant. And whereas the Municipal Act 2001, all those numbers states that council may fill a vacancy by appointing a person who has consented to accept the office if appointed, or requiring that a by-election be held to fill a vacancy in accordance with the Municipal Elections Act SO 1996, Chapter 32. And whereas the CAO clerk is recommending that council consider filling the vacancy by appointing a person who has consented to accept the office if appointed, as it may be the most cost efficient than having a by-election. Now, therefore, be it resolved that council hereby declares one councillor seat for Oso District 3 for the Township of Central Frontenac to be vacant effective immediately, and approve the recommendation of the CAO clerk to fill the vacancy by appointing a person instead of holding a by-election. Discussion. A by-election would probably cost
Anywhere from 10 to, well, at one point it used to be 10 to 15,000, but it could be more than that.
it's probably 20 now.
Yeah.
Philip.
just to clarify, the appointment's approved by council.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, what would happen is that at the next council meeting, then you would have to put who the person is and you do it and they have to be sworn in. Yes,
It's happened a couple of times.
Yeah.
it has.
A few times. Okay, all those in favor? Carried. All right, now we have a closed session. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
After our last council meeting a month ago, when Public Works was here and we had the question on the ballot about garbage, I had asked about Kane being our consultant coming and giving an update on the lifespan of our dumps. And
Fine.
that I was wondering if we had a date for when they were going to come, because we haven't had it in a few years. And
No. No, we haven't yet, because Steve will look after that for the next, yep.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's something that is a separate job that they do, I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, what's the cost of that? Sorry, I should be. So is it something we need to get a cost of before we do it?
well, I'm concerned because we were giving out dates of information saying that if we had garbage pickup and our garbage went there, our dump's lifespan was only 10 years. But the last update we had, they had said it was somewhere from around 30 years. So we still are going to create the same amount of garbage, whether it's picked up or not. You would assume it would go, most would go to the dump. So I'm just concerned with, we've added quite a few new homes. Seasonal homes have become complete residential. And if the dump is filling up quicker than we had expected, one of the suggestions was starting the application to expand the Olden site with the property we have there. And we've been told it takes many years for an expansion to get approved. And if we need an expansion, like that's the only landfill site we have that can accept large amounts of garbage. And if we need to do an expansion as a council, I think we need to be proactive and looking at that sooner rather than later, if it takes that long. So that's where I'm coming from, that we need as much information as possible as a council to look at that lifespan of that site and where we're going with it.
Yeah, maybe we could also ask Cambian if there's been any sites approved in the province in the last 10 years. Because for years and years and years, they have not approved any additional sites. This could be an expansion of a site. I don't know if they're approving those or not, but Cambian certainly would be the company that would know. So let's talk to them and see what we can find out. Yeah. Okay. All right, I'm going to read this. Moved by Susan Irwin, seconded by Dan Meeks. That council resolve into closed session pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001 to 1, receive closed session minutes, and 2, for the purpose of receiving advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose pursuant to section 239(2)(f) of the Act. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, we'll give everybody a minute to